From the Detroit Free Press, it's Wednesday, April 8th. Here are today's top stories. Brought to you by JB's Smokehouse, located inside Bush's Fresh Food Market of Canton. JB's offers a range of authentic barbecue favorites, from beef brisket and mac and cheese to fried green tomatoes and pulled pork tacos. JB's is sure to become your new favorite barbecue spot.
For the Detroit Free Press, I'm Darcy Moran. The coronavirus pandemic is hitting African Americans the hardest in Michigan. African Americans make up just 14% of the state's population, but 33% of confirmed cases and 40% of deaths in the state. Still, there's been nothing to compare those numbers to on a national scale. The nonpartisan nonprofit Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law commended the state Monday as one of the few collecting and reporting such data. Some counties report this too, though two of the hardest hit areas, the city of Detroit and Wayne County, do not. Tracking this data nationwide will ensure equitable sharing of resources with the most vulnerable, according to doctors and the nonprofit. President Donald Trump on Tuesday acknowledged the countrywide disparities in coronavirus deaths, saying some nasty numbers will be released in coming days. Robert Gordon, director of the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, has called the high number of COVID-19 deaths in African Americans tragic and horrifying. The reason, too, he said, is unjust. A legacy of poverty and discrimination that have led to high levels of pre-existing conditions and smaller living spaces with little room for social distancing. For more, check out freep.com.
Hi, this is Kathleen Gray, and I cover state and national politics for the Detroit Free Press. It was a surreal scene at the state capitol on Tuesday. Lawmakers were getting their temperatures taken, and many of them wore face masks and gloves. In groups of 2 or 3, they walked into the House and Senate chambers, prepared to vote on extending an emergency declaration that would last through April 30th. But they stood at least 6 feet apart, adhering to guidelines set to prevent the spread of coronavirus. 2 House members have tested positive for coronavirus, and a third, State Rep. Isaac Robinson, died from a suspected COVID-19 infection. There were no votes of dissent on the extension of the emergency, but the duration was far shorter than Governor Gretchen Whitmer's request for a 70-day extension.
I'm Susan Solaski, Detroit Free Press food writer. At sundown Wednesday, many Jewish families in Metro Detroit will celebrate the first night of Passover. Tables will be set, dinner made, a Seder plate will be readied. They'll read stories from the Haggadah on how Moses led Jews from slavery. But the COVID-19 pandemic is causing a big change. Instead of large gatherings of family and friends, it will be a quieter, more personal Seder for most. Mickey Rubenstein's Passover table will include her husband and daughter. Typically, it's set for 20 to 25 people. Instead, she'll surround herself with family, preparing favorite dishes of close relatives. Those who go out of town are staying home and participating in Passover traditions with family through Zoom video conferencing. And it'll be a first time for some. Rabbi Pinson, director of Chabad of Greater Downtown Detroit, predicts this year there will be a large amount of individual Seder dinners, a tradition that dates back 3,332 years.
For the Detroit Free Press, I'm Eric D. Lawrence. Some bus riders in Detroit's suburbs are in for a change starting Wednesday. In response to the coronavirus outbreak, the smart bus system is shifting more than a dozen commuter routes to an advanced reservation shuttle service. The bus riders on those routes will have to call ahead or send an email to SMART in order to reserve a seat on a shuttle so they can get to their destinations. The move will allow SMART to shift more buses to some key corridors to meet social distancing needs. It's also a reaction to the dramatic drop in ridership, which is down 80% since COVID-19 upended daily life for Michiganders. Transit systems across the state and country have been affected by the virus, and some, including the Q Line and Detroit People Mover, have shut down.
I'm Kirkland Crawford with the Free Press Sports Department and a story of recovery. A couple of weeks ago, we reported that Detroit Pistons scout Maury Hanks was not only diagnosed with coronavirus, but was in a Tennessee hospital and not doing well at all. In fact, he told the Free Press on Tuesday that doctors gave him a 12% chance of walking out of that hospital. But Hanks was taken off a ventilator last week, was discharged from the hospital on Sunday and is currently still being monitored, but from home. Hanks spends a lot of time on the road scouting potential players for the Pistons, so he's not quite sure how or when he contracted the virus. But he remains grateful to his wife, his basketball friends, and the Pistons organization for their support. And he said Tuesday, quote, "I can tell you firsthand, this is no joke, and I don't want anybody to go through what I went through."
For more stories from the Detroit Free Press, be sure to check out freep.com. That's FREEP.com. If you want to support our quality local journalism, subscribe. Go to freep.com/special offer. See you tomorrow.